Did I do okay?
It was good. It was good. I have a few things up here. One of the things that's really been a major focus from the beginning of the year, you saw pictures and balloons and maybe a Batman costume or a Wonder Woman costume. At the beginning of the year, we really set out that goal setting was going to be a major focus for us this year. So in individual classrooms with individual students, talking about that similar age peer focus and looking at where all of your kids are and where we want them to be. Growing every day, every student is kind of one of the things that we have moving forward. And I'll get to these things. Moving into this current school year, some stuff that we didn't necessarily get to communicate as well as I would have liked to. The goals that we had coming into this year, climate and culture in our building, building trust, and making sure that the relationships that we had amongst ourselves were such that we were strong enough in order to meet the students' needs who are coming in our building every day. And so putting a lot of effort in there, a lot of initiative in there from our teachers, a couple of whom are here tonight as dual role parents and teachers, have done an amazing work in the positivity that has kind of overwhelmed our building this year. Because of their efforts and because of some things that we've intentionally put in place, the climate and the culture has really improved. Teacher leadership and professional growth. We've had the opportunity to send a lot of teachers to a lot of places this school year with an emphasis on, again, growing kids, differentiating instruction, and making sure that every kid at every level is getting exactly what he or she needs. That's been going really well. RTI, Response to Intervention, system that's been around for several years now. Many of you have heard of it. Really, when we stepped into this, the focus was on a percentage of kids who were below grade level, some significantly below grade level. So we put a system in place this year that we've been able to implement where if you go through our data and you look at the decisions that have been made for specific kids in specific areas and specific lessons and very specific things, we have very, very few students in the entire population, 750 plus kids at this point, who are below the 25th percentile in any area, math, reading, put a measure in front of them, very, very few kids below that 25th percentile. So again, a goal accomplished. That process and structure that we put in place, we're really excited about because we've seen how beneficial it's been for so many kids. That we are going to kind of transfer that, and I'll get to this high potential learners thing in just a second. We're going to transfer that structure that's in place that the teachers have really bought into and that has really worked for a significant portion of our population. We're going to put that in place for the entire school. And so we can look at every single kid, every single level, whatever percentile that may be. My kid's at the 60th percentile. What are you doing for my student? We can answer that question with confidence because we're going to grow every kid at every level. The data collection in that whole process has become very important. We've had to take a look at with our teachers in our professional learning communities and staff meetings and everything else, looking at instruction and where we can improve, individualizing, differentiating, making sure that every kid gets what every kid needs each and every day. Making decisions based on that data has been something that we really focused on this year. So we don't just buy a program because the program sounds fun. We buy a program because we've done our research, we've put data on the table, we do a sample size of 20 kids, and we see how awesome it hits certain areas for certain needs, and then we make a decision to spend money. As a site-based council member spoke earlier. Learning how to make good decisions with the finances that we have for your students. And we've done a really good job this year with that as well. We're already discussing goals for next year, and this is kind of where you guys come in. And I'm going to try not to fly through these, but here goes. The first thing you can see up there is growth for every student, which I hit on a little bit already. But every single level, if your kid's in the 5th percentile, they're not going to be at the end of the year. If your kid's at the 75th percentile or 85th percentile, they're not going to be at the end of the year. We're going to move every single student, everything in our ability to move those kids at every level. We focused a lot on those struggling students, as I said earlier, for this current school year, and we've seen that what we're doing works in large part because we have supportive parents, We have awesome teachers, and we just have a system in place that's been working really well. So that growth is going to continue for the middle and high-end students. As Dr. Stacy said, 70-75% of our students are at or above grade level at any measure you want to look at. Reading, writing, math. And so we want to make sure that we're intentional with that very large percentage of our population, not just the 5% here or the 5% up here. Our high potential learners, which is up here as well, 75%, as I said, are at or above. We want to make sure we're supporting those students at every level. This includes, but is not limited to, our gifted and talented population. I see a lot of parents in here who have gifted and talented students who've been either in the primary talent pool, which is kind of undergoing a little bit of change. We're going to try to identify more kids in more areas because we really feel like identifying more kids in more areas with the population that we have is going to serve our purpose very well because we have a lot of gifted kids. But even those kids that are, just below the gifted population or 50th, 60th percentile kids on certain measures, we really are striving to make sure that they get what they need. The gifted and talented population, as I mentioned, is going to change a little bit with regard to what we're able to do and how we're able to service those students, making sure that they're in the right position. I'm an old coach, so I look at this situation in a couple of ways as a coach would look at it. Teachers, putting teachers in positions that they can be most successful so that they can put students in positions where they can be most successful. So in the classroom, grouping intentionally, our teachers do an amazing job with that. You guys help out in classrooms and see it all the time. We have open door policy, and you can't find a parking spot because there's 300 moms and dads in the building helping with math centers, helping with all kinds of things. We look forward to that continued support, but within that, there's an intentionality with which our teachers group your students and put them in. It's not that we need to have all of the kids who are in the 95th percentile in this group and all the kids that are in the 5th percentile in this group. That's not what research has proven to be most effective. So there are ways to be intentional about how that happens to make sure that all the kids grow at the rate that they should grow. And Ms. Brummer is going to talk about a couple of things, student leadership and summer slide.
Okay, so those were two very lofty goals that we have coming up for next year. We've had a lot of discussions, and there are lots of facets and lots of people who are going to play big roles in making those goals happen. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of smaller goals that could have a large impact, a little more attainable quickly. One thing that kind of goes off of the gifted and the high potential learners is leadership in our school. We have a lot of little leaders in our hallways every single day, and I see parents of a lot of them in here. I mean, we have a lot of students who have the potential to be great leaders, and students look up to those leaders, so we want to use that. And so we're going to start a student leadership team. We're going to come up with a lot of initiatives for them and things that they can help us, help the school achieve. So that's one way we're going to tap into some of that talent and to make our school better. So that's one little part. Summer slide. That was another goal that we had, and this kind of takes me back to when I first started really working with the GSIPL group. Just about the time I started getting to know these ladies, we were knee-deep in fall data. So we had just taken our STAR assessment. Most of you probably know what that is. It's a universal screener that we use 3 times a year for sure, and sometimes more, depending on the data that we need. So we take it in the fall initially, and we get a baseline score, and we identify some areas of need at that point for our students and determine what we need to do to help them grow. So what we were noticing, if you want to, the next slide, what we were noticing is that in just about every grade level, and this isn't uncommon for just about every school, but from spring data last year to fall data this year, there's a slide. We saw some more significant than others. We saw some summer slide is what we call it. So makes sense, right? I mean, they're not in a classroom every single day in the summer. And so like I said, very typical, but we think that just tapping into some other resources, that we could maybe reduce that a little bit, that we could really help our students stay closer to where they left us in the spring by just helping provide some of those resources and opportunities for them to learn and grow throughout the summer. We know that you are taking them to the library and you're reading with them and you're doing all the great things that you do as parents, but we thought if we could provide some resources to streamline some of that help and help you really target some areas that they're going to be focusing on the next grade level, that could be really cool. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine Lily Park has a book in her hand all summer, I'm sure, so she's reading. She's not a reader. Well,
She's a reader, but
not all summer. I know sometimes we do assume that, maybe we're not. So
Everybody needs a vacation.
all right, Marsha, we're going to need you to visit the library table. So anyway, but you as a parent of an incoming fourth grader, it would be very useful for you to know, okay, in fourth grade, they start reading narrations in first person and third person and talking about the differences between those. So why not in the summer start talking about that a little bit? Not that you have to teach the exact standard, but know what they're getting into. Incoming second graders, they will learn folk tales and fables for the first time. So and that's a very different type of literature if they've never read that before. So why not in the summer go to the library, grab some folk tales, and read them? And talk about, what's the central message? What's the moral of the story? Those are things they're going to be learning in second grade. So you can do that at every grade level if you know the standards, right? So it's just a simple thing, and I'm going to show you some resources that will help you get to know the standards that your children will be learning the next year. So we're hoping this summer, you're going to learn more about the summer program that the G-Simple group has arranged. Is phenomenal. It's going to be great. It's just one way for us to support the students during the summer. But also, next school year, you'll be learning a lot more about what your child is actually learning in the classroom in regards to standards and the actual resources that we use to teach the standards. Next.
All right. You guys are part of the solution, so we're going to go to the next slide. There are Parent University, again, events coming up in the summer. There are going to be more to come about that. There's tables in the back with all these resources that we're talking about. So we want this night to be about you getting what you want to get. So know what your children are expected to learn each year. Next slide. There are a couple of, go ahead. There are a couple of resources here, and I'm going to try to navigate while Ms. Brummer.
Before we talk about that, though, the two things that we have planned besides the summer event, that's a lot of activities for your kids and ways for your kids to stay involved in the curriculum. But next year, as far as you being students, we have a reading night planned in the fall, in September, and those dates are on your agenda. Then we have a math night in February. Oh, did I switch it? Math first. Okay, so we'll start with math and then reading. But you will actually get the opportunity to come here and we'll meet as a whole group and we'll talk about some topics that at that time, we haven't really determined the big topics it could be. How do I read my child's STAR assessments? How do I gauge whether compared to other peers, are they growing the way they should grow? Or what does this percentile mean? I don't even know what a percentile is. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then you get to break out into your child's classroom and you actually get to become a student in your child's classroom. So your child's teacher will be teaching you a math lesson, using the resources that we use every day, using the vocabulary we use every day. So you can kind of just get a glimpse of what that looks like. So, when they come home with that homework and there's this tens frame, does anybody know what that is? Maybe?
We didn't learn math that way.
Exactly. We didn't use tens frames. So you'll know what that is, and you'll know why they use it, and maybe have a little bit more of an understanding and be able to help them a little more. And, we're going to talk a little bit about the standards now. Standards can change at any given moment. So, a lot going on in education right now, and, if Common Core is out the door, fine, whatever. Here at Beechwood, we're going to teach the standards. We're going to teach whatever we are told to teach. So no matter what the standards are, we're going to take it upon ourselves to make sure we educate you on what those standards are and what we can do to help you make sure that your students master them when they need to.
I gotta say one thing.
Sure.
I'm so sorry I'll leave, so I don't talk anymore. But it's important, what she's saying, and one thing I've asked our principals is to have an end of grade level expectation. All right, so that regardless, okay, number one, we're not bound All right, standards are great, right, but that's just the floor. All right, that's just the baseline. All right, it doesn't matter. I mean, and I've always given more autonomy to a teacher to be able to move a kid forward using anything, including the standards. But if you know the end of grade level expectation within the content, then it's just their job to get them to that point, to be able to do X, Y, and Z at the end of the year. And like with me, my teachers had to do a lot of creative extensions on top of that, because I was a little bit more hard-headed than some other people, but it didn't matter, right? Because that's just what I needed, all right? And your child may need more or less, depending on where they are. But you know, if we have where we want them to be at the end of the year, then that's very easy to communicate, not just from the standards we use, but from the growth from beginning of the year to the end of the year, right? So I just wanted to interject.
No, that's great. And building off of that a little bit, our teachers have worked very hard to create actually what he is talking about, grade level expectations. We are actually publishing nice little pamphlets for you that you'll get at the beginning of next year. So if you have an incoming fourth grader, you'll get a pamphlet that says, here are the grade level expectations for our fourth graders. So that'll be a very nice resource for you to have as well. So I agree, very important. And so we are going to show you a couple of resources. We put the websites on your agenda as well, and I have some hard copies at the back table, the yellow table, that you can look at afterwards when we break out, just to give you an idea. PTA, the national website, is a great resource, and they have documents that actually take you through a grade levels standards, but in a really parent-friendly way. So not so much an educator way, but a parent way. Like, what can I do to help my child on these standards? Here's what you can find this year. This is what they might be learning, and here's how to help them. So nice little tools and guides for you to use on that website. And then also, Council of the Greater City Schools is actually an organization created for urban schools, but the resources are phenomenal, and they have roadmaps that are very similar to the PTA resources. So that's a great place to get started if you don't want to dive into commoncore.org and look at what the teachers have to read. This is a much more parent-friendly resource just to kind of take a look. I think it's a great idea to take a look at those before summer and know what you can focus on. I mean, even the questions that you ask your child, you know, as they're reading this big chapter book, I mean, you could ask questions that directly relate to the standards they're going to be learning in the next grade level. Why not? You can do that in the car, you know? So I just think it's any little pieces like that that we can use to help our students grow over the summer or anytime is useful. So, and also our wonderful student teachers told us that there is an app as well, and I think I put that on there for Mastery Connect. Everything has an app, right? So you can actually get the standards on the app, and not only reading and math, but also the NGSS, if you see that acronym, that's the Next Generation Science Standards, and Ms. Kaler, 6th grade science teacher in the back, she's gonna have information on those standards for us. Next year we're having a reading and math night. Beyond that, I'm sure we will go on to science or social studies and other content areas, so we just wanna make sure we don't forget about those important standards as well. So that's just one little piece of information that we want to give you that hopefully you'll take away and kind of get ready for your next class in September.